I'll never forget this man I worked with early on in my career. He was young, late 30s, early 40s. He had been dealing with a disc herniation. He made great progress in his recovery. His structure was healing and he was able to go back and live life again. However, he had great anxiety around movement that really held him back from living life to the fullest. He wouldn't bend over and pick things up off of the floor for fear of triggering the previous pain and injury. He had small children and he would ask them to do all of these things for him, and he was really limited in his daily life. Being an OT, we have training in mental emotional, so I worked with tools to help calm the anxiety, but he always seemed to have this initial limitation that was imposed by this anxiety that he had around movement. And he was discharged and I didn't see him again. And I often wonder how the tools I use today could help him. I still see people who have anxiety and fear around movement, especially after an injury or a trauma or a surgery. And I know I myself have had times where I've had an injury or a setback, and then when I go back to my movement program and I want to challenge my body and move with greater intensity, that sometimes I feel a little bit inhibited, a little bit of fear. One of my favorite tools to support people around this is the fear paralysis reflex tapping sequence. And so for this real life application, I'm going to talk about how I apply that tool. You can learn the full tapping sequence at my Inner Resources free gift series. It's the second video in that series, and you can find it at inspiredwell.com. And the way that I use this tool is if someone's coming in and they have a lot of fear or anxiety around movement, I will teach them the whole sequence of tapping around the fear paralysis and help them feel empowered. And we'll do it at the start of a session, and then they move through their session and often remark how they feel very different. They feel more confident, they feel safer, which is what we want. And then I'll give it to them as home play or part of their home program. And I'm always quick to tell them only to do it 1 to 3 times a week. You don't want to overdo the fear paralysis reflex. You have to have a level of inhibition still built in there. And when they come in the next time, if they've been doing it at home for a few weeks, 1 to 3 times a week, let's say, then I will have them do just the tapping at the sternum at the start of the session. And then we go through the session, and as we're layering, they can feel really safe and comfortable. And then we're progressing their sessions, and we find that I'm getting ready to add that next level. It's that next step, which might feel pretty big for them in their recovery, but I know that their body's ready, but they have to convince their brain and mind that it's ready. So we'll be doing their session, and maybe 20 minutes into the session, that's when I decide to introduce the new exercise, which is a progression. I'll once again have them just do the tapping at the sternum, and that prepares their mind and their body to move into that next level of challenge as part of their healing. And again, I give this to people in their home play or home program. I'll tell them, before you go out to go for that longer walk, or before you decide to add this new exercise to your home program, go ahead and do a little bit of work to support the fear paralysis with the tapping. And that builds their confidence. It helps them feel safe, and they're ready to integrate that movement into their healing program. I have seen great results with this through the years. I'd love for you to give it a try, both in your practice if you're a professional, and or in your own personal life if you are someone who's looking to increase your movement and want to make sure you feel safe and secure in that process from a mind-body perspective. Thanks for joining in for this real life application. I'll be back next week on Work and Wednesday with more tools to support those individuals dealing with anxiety or fear around movement.